Now the micro-agency flip, start with one skill, package it like a luxury service, charge premium. Most people are selling their time for pennies, while consultants with the exact same skills are charging 5, 10, even 20 times more for identical work. The difference isn't talent, it isn't experience, it's not even the quality of what they deliver. The difference is something far more powerful and far simpler than you've been led to believe. It's positioning. And today I'm going to show you exactly how to weaponize it. Welcome to Premium Wealth Insights. I'm William Vanderbilt, and if this is your first time here, understand this. We're building something special. This channel exists for one reason: to decode the wealth strategies the top 1% use but rarely talk about. We're aiming for our first 100 subscribers, and I need you to be part of this foundation. Hit that subscribe button right now. We're targeting 50 likes on this video. That's the goal. And I want to know where in the world you're watching from. Drop your location in the comments. Let's see how far this message reaches. Because what I'm about to share isn't theory. It's the blueprint wealthy consultants have used to transform single skills into 6- and 7-figure businesses. Here's the uncomfortable truth that separates freelancers drowning in client work from consultants banking $250,000 contracts. Perceived value always outweighs actual workload. Let me say that again because this is the foundation everything else is built on. Perceived value outweighs actual workload. Wealthy consultants don't charge for time. They charge for transformation. They charge for outcomes. They charge for the prestige associated with their brand. A service delivered in 1 hour can command $5,000, while the exact same service delivered by someone positioned differently costs $50. That's not a 100 times difference in skill. It's a 100 times difference in positioning. Let me give you a real example. Gary Vaynerchuk built VaynerMedia into a multi-million-dollar empire. His consulting wing handles 8 to 12-week engagements for brands, Anheuser-Busch, GE, JP Morgan Chase, PepsiCo. The price tag: between $250,000 and $500,000 for 8 to 12 weeks. Now here's where it gets interesting. Vaynerchuk revealed something in an interview that most consultants would never admit. When his team consulted with major consulting firms off the record, they discovered something telling. The firm said, "I can't believe it's a 15-week project. It really only took 2 weeks, and we're making $9 million. Let that sink in. 2 weeks of actual work, $9 million in revenue. The gap between actual work and charged value isn't fraud, it's positioning. This pattern repeats across every high-ticket consulting vertical. Alex Hormozi, who's built multiple companies generating over $100 million in revenue, operates on a strict pricing philosophy. He raised his services from $99 to $299 per month by reframing value, not by changing the service. The result? Fulfillment costs went down while revenue more than doubled. Hormozi teaches a principle he calls pricing based on value, not effort. When one of his clients was charging $250 to $350 per hour for design work, Hormozi asked a simple question. What result is this design work creating for your client? The answer: it was saving the client $72,000 per year in salary replacement costs. Hormozi's instruction was direct. Stop charging for your time. Start charging for the result. They restructured to flat fee pricing based on outcome. Their conversion rate increased immediately. Now, before we go deeper, I want you to pause and think about your own skills. Whatever you're good at, copywriting, design, video editing, SEO, branding, you've probably been taught to charge based on hours or deliverables. You've been positioned as a commodity, and that's exactly what's keeping you poor. Because while you're trading time for money, someone with your exact skill set is packaging it as a transformation and charging 10 times what you charge. The only difference is how they position it, and that's what we're about to fix. The micro-agency flip works through 3 simultaneous positioning layers. Master these, and you control the perception of value. Miss even one, and you're stuck competing on price. The 3 layers are outcome positioning, brand positioning, and scarcity positioning. Let's break each one down. Outcome positioning is about reframing your offering around results, not deliverables. Dan Locke, who specializes in high-ticket sales and has over 12 million followers, teaches a core principle. Show the cost of not working with you. Think about a real estate investor standing to lose $1 million on a bad deal. Will they hesitate at a $25,000 consulting fee? Absolutely not. The fee becomes insurance, not an expense. If a business is losing $500,000 annually due to poor sales strategy, a $15,000 coaching offer isn't a cost. It's the cheapest solution they have. This is where copywriting, landing page design, thumbnail creation, the entry-level skills most people think are commodities, become leverage. A copywriter isn't selling words. They're selling revenue. A landing page designer isn't selling web pages. They're selling conversion rate increases. Thumbnail designers at higher price points don't frame their service as image design. They frame it as CTR optimization. See the difference? One is a commodity. The other is a business outcome. The second layer is brand positioning. Presentation matters immensely, and this is where most freelancers fail spectacularly. Luxury brands maintain premium pricing through cohesive visual identity, compelling storytelling, and controlled distribution. Hermès limits Birkin bag production to maintain exclusivity, which artificially drives up perceived value. Rolex refuses to discount ever, and this refusal reinforces prestige. These aren't product innovations, they're positioning innovations. For a micro-agency, this translates to clean website design, minimalist branding, strict scope of work, and done-for-you framing. The visual presentation of your productized service package signals exclusivity. A $500 landing page service presented on a basic Squarespace template looks like a commodity. The exact same service presented through a carefully designed minimalist website with client case studies and a defined process looks like premium consulting. Nothing about the deliverable changed. Everything about the perception changed. The third layer is scarcity and limitation positioning. Wealthy consultants artificially limit availability to reinforce perceived value. High-ticket coaching programs don't take everyone. They filter for serious high-value clients through application or pre-qualification processes. Grant Cardone, whose influence spans 30 million followers, teaches salespeople to fill their pipeline so full that rejection becomes irrelevant. When demand exceeds supply, even artificially, price rises. A micro-agency can implement this through limited slots per month, strict client criteria, defined project timelines, 30-day turnaround for thumbnail packages, 48-hour design delivery, and public case studies showing only 3 to 5 past clients. This positioning communicates one message: we're selective, we're in demand, we're worth the wait. Now, if you're starting to see how this works, drop a comment right now with your biggest takeaway so far. I want to know what's clicking for you, and if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because what I'm about to reveal next is the actual pricing architecture, the 3-tier model that luxury brands and high-ticket consultants use to extract maximum value from every client interaction. The pricing architecture is where most people get this completely wrong. They either charge too little and position themselves as cheap, or they charge randomly without strategic anchoring. Wealthy consultants use a sophisticated 3-tier pricing model that's been pioneered by luxury brands for decades. Let me walk you through it. The first tier is entry-level anchor pricing, typically between $300 and $500. This serves as the gateway offer. It's low enough to seem accessible but high enough to signal quality. A copywriter might offer a $399 sales page package, complete conversion-optimized sales page delivered in 48 hours. A designer might offer a $450 landing page special, high conversion design package with a 30-day turnaround. At this price point, the key is speed and clarity. The offer should take 3 to 6 hours to actually deliver, or appear to through templating, and the outcome should be tangible and measurable. The perceived value skyrockets because the client compares the price to freelance hourly rates. If a freelancer charges $100 to $200 per hour, a $500 package suggests 10+ hours of work. Compared to an in-house team's salary, $80,000 annually equals $38.46 per hour. That $450 investment seems like 1 week of employee time. The math works in your favor as long as you position it correctly. The second tier is mid-tier premium packaging, ranging from $1,000 to $2,500. This is where positioning pays massive dividends. The service scope isn't substantially different from the entry-level offer, but the packaging is completely different. Example, a premium brand audit package for $1,500 that includes a discovery call, competitive analysis, positioning documentation, and a strategy brief. The entry package was $450. The premium package adds 3 to 4 touchpoints and a single strategic document, yet commands more than 3 times the price. The key to mid-tier pricing is offering what appears to be customization while maintaining process efficiency. A productized design service that seems tailored, because it includes a discovery call and custom recommendations, but uses 80% standardized templates, will deliver $1,500 value perception for perhaps $200 in actual time investment. You're getting paid for the system, not the hours. The third tier is high-ticket positioning, starting at $5,000 and going up to $10,000 or beyond. Once you have 3 to 5 case studies and demonstrable results, pricing jumps dramatically. This isn't because the work fundamentally changes. It's because you've now positioned yourself as a proven specialist with a track record. A copywriter might move from a $450 sales page to a $7,500 complete funnel package that includes the sales page, email sequence, and follow-up automation strategy. The hours worked may only double or triple, but the perceived value compounds because you're now packaging the entire transformation, not just a single deliverable. Personal branding consultants demonstrate this principle clearly. Entry-level branding workshops start at $1,000. High-end packages run $5,000 or more. Branding professionals charge anywhere from $2,000 to $50,000 for consultants and small business owners, with high-end agencies charging $25,000 to $90,000. The difference isn't necessarily the quality of thinking, it's the positioning, the track record, and the controlled scarcity. Let me tell you a story about a web designer who understood this perfectly. He started freelance at $3,000 per project. Typical entry-level positioning. He was drowning in client work, constantly stressed, and barely breaking $60,000 a year. Then he had a realization. He wasn't going to scale by doing more projects. He needed to package differently and stack revenue models. His breakthrough came when he added recurring services. Instead of delivering one-time website projects, he attached a monthly SEO retainer to every website. Suddenly, sporadic income became predictable revenue. But the real magic happened when he improved his messaging and packaging. He didn't improve design quality. He reframed what clients were buying. He added SEO services, created case studies, and positioned himself as a complete business transformation partner rather than just a web designer. Within 18 months, he scaled from less than $1,000 in month 1 to over 6 figures annually. The work didn't change. The positioning did. Another case study. The highest-paid copywriters don't charge by the hour. Joshua Boswell, frequently cited in 6-figure copywriting circles, started $100,000 in debt, but cleared 6 figures in 12 months. What's overlooked in these stories is context. Most 6-figure copywriters either have prior industry contacts providing referrals, spent 1 to 3 years building a portfolio before breaking out, or started with existing networks and relationships. But here's what's important. The pattern reveals something critical. The micro-agency flip accelerates once you have social proof. Ed Gandia moonlighted as a copywriter for 27 months while maintaining a sales job, building gradually before going full-time. Brian Whitaker's 6-figure year came primarily through contacts he'd built in a previous role as a marketing manager. However, the actual positioning strategy remains consistent across all successful practitioners. Copywriters move from hourly rates, $100 to $200 per hour, to project-based flat fees, $400 to $1,200 for short-form sales pages, $900 to $1,350 for long-form. Then the best-performing copywriters move to outcome-based pricing, where they charge 10 to 15% of the revenue they generate rather than a flat project fee. That's when you stop being a service provider and become a business partner. That's when the real money starts flowing. Gary Vaynerchuk's consulting model demonstrates how a personal brand becomes a pricing machine. His media and creative agency, VaynerMedia, handles years-long engagements costing millions. His consulting wing offers 8 to 12-week projects at $250,000 to $500,000. Here's the interesting part. These same consulting outcomes might have been delivered as part of a years-long agency engagement for significantly less on a per-engagement basis. The difference is positioning. Vaynerchuk's brand allows him to package consulting separately, charge premium rates, and keep consultation separate from ongoing agency work. This is the micro-agency model in pure form. Take one skill. Package it as a premium, standalone offering. Charge based on the transformation and brand positioning rather than hours invested. That's the entire game. Now, if you're serious about implementing this, hit that like button right now. We're going for 50 likes on this video, and every single one tells me you're ready to move beyond freelancer thinking and into consultant positioning. And make sure you're subscribed, because next week I'm breaking down the exact sales psychology techniques these consultants use to close high-ticket deals without feeling salesy. You don't want to miss that. Let me give you the strategic implementation framework. This is step-by-step, and if you execute this correctly, you can build a $200,000 to $400,000 annual business within 18 to 36 months. Step 1. Choose the skill. The ideal micro-agency skill meets 3 criteria. High leverage. It can be delivered efficiently or partially automated. Visible business impact. Directly measurable ROI or output. Market demand. Businesses are actively seeking and willing to pay for it. Optimal starting skills include copywriting and sales pages, directly tied to revenue generation. Landing page design visibly impacts conversion rates. Thumbnail design and video graphics, measurable CTR and engagement impact. SEO and technical optimization directly mapped to traffic and leads. Brand positioning and strategy justifies premium pricing through perceived value. Email sequence development, measurable revenue attribution. Avoid skills that are subjective, like general business coaching. Avoid anything difficult to scope, like social media management. Avoid process-intensive services, anything requiring significant client-side involvement, like content creation at volume. Those services trap you in endless back and forth. You want clean, defined, deliverable-focused work. Step 2. Create the productized package. Transform the service from custom consulting to a defined, repeatable package. The package should include clear deliverables, exact outputs like one optimized sales page, 5 email sequences, conversion audit report, fixed timeline, 30-day delivery, 48-hour turnaround, week-long implementation, defined scope, what's included and explicitly what's not, to prevent scope creep. Visual presentation, professional one-pager, website section, or dedicated landing page. Process transparency, documented steps showing the system, even if it's 80% templated. This is where most freelancers fail. They keep every project custom because they think that's what clients want. Wrong. Clients want certainty. They want to know exactly what they're getting, exactly when they're getting it, and exactly what it costs. Productization gives them that certainty, and it allows you to scale without drowning in custom work. Step 3. Price at perceived value, not effort. Start at $300 to $500 for the entry package. This isn't arbitrarily low. It's strategically low enough to feel accessible while high enough to signal quality. A $50 service screams cheap. A $500 service with professional packaging signals premium delivery. Here's the internal math you never reveal to clients. A copywriter spending 4 hours at $125 per hour would normally charge $500. So a $500 flat fee for a templated sales page is competitive on paper. But to a client unfamiliar with pricing, a 48-hour turnaround on something a full-time copywriter might take 2 weeks to complete feels like extreme value. You're not lying. You're positioning. Step 4. Build social proof through case studies. The first 2 to 5 clients may need discounts or even free work in exchange for results-focused case studies. This isn't failure, it's investment. A case study showing implemented sales page increased monthly revenue from $8,000 to $12,000, Her 50% increase is worth more than $50,000 in marketing spend because it directly proves ROI. Real-world example. Peyton Clark, a thumbnail designer, built his business by targeting micro-content creators, YouTubers, podcasters, streamers, and creating thumbnail packages that demonstrably improved CTR. His positioning moved from $5 to $10 per thumbnail, commodity pricing, to $50 to $100 per thumbnail by emphasizing CTR impact, which directly tied to monetization for creators. Same work, different positioning, 10 times the revenue. Step 5. Raise prices after 3 to 5 case studies. Once you have documented results, increase base pricing to $1,000 to $2,000. Don't adjust the core deliverable. Adjust the positioning and add one additional touchpoint: consultation call, strategic brief, follow-up revision round. The price increase looks like added value, but it's primarily a positioning adjustment. Alex Hormozi's approach of having 3 price tiers applies here. Offer the $500 entry package, a $1,500 premium package, same deliverable, additional touchpoints, and a $5,000 plus enterprise or done-with-you package with more strategic involvement and ongoing support. Most clients will choose the middle option. That's anchoring psychology. But the high-ticket option positions you as premium and makes the middle option look reasonable by comparison. Step 6. Scale through hiring and systemization. Once you're delivering profitably at $1,000 to $2,000 per client, hire. But don't hire to take on more client work at the same rate. Hire to maintain quality while you focus on sales and positioning. Boywan Zhao, who scaled his agency to $200,000 per month, emphasizes this. Remove yourself from fulfillment, build systems that run without you, and hire contractors to execute while you handle client acquisition and strategic direction. The business scales when you become a brand and salesperson, not a delivery person. This is where the truly wealthy consultants differentiate themselves. They've completely removed themselves from production. Dan Pena hosts high-ticket seminars in his Scottish castle. He's not writing the curriculum himself, but his brand presence commands $50,000 or more for multi-day attendance. The perception is the product. Similarly, Grant Cardone's 10X Bootcamp isn't Grant personally coaching all attendees. It's Grant's brand and framework executed through a team. They're selling the brand, not the personal delivery. That's the leverage multiplier. The micro-agency flip succeeds because it operates on leverage across 3 dimensions. Time leverage. A $2,000 flat-fee project that takes 10 hours is $200 per hour. But if you run 5 of these per month, that's 50 hours total. It's $10,000 for less than a full-time work week. Wealthy consultants often bill $500 to $1,000 or more per hour, but they achieve this through packaging, not hourly execution. Team leverage. Once you hire, your time becomes primarily sales and positioning. A designer who hires 1 contractor can double revenue while working fewer hours. The contractor does 10 projects at $2,000 each, while you sell and do quality control. 3 contractors effectively makes you a $200,000 per year business, but you're personally delivering less than 20 hours per week. Brand leverage. Once positioned as a specialist, you can raise prices without losing clients. The thumbnail designer at $50 per image competes with 100 competitors. The thumbnail designer at $500 per image who emphasizes CTR-optimized design for monetized creators competes with nobody in that positioning, allowing price premiums of 10 times. Let's talk about the economics because this is where the model becomes undeniable. A micro-agency operating at $1,500 average deal size, closing 5 clients per month, generates $7,500 monthly revenue. That's $90,000 annually. This is achievable in the first year with correct positioning. Hire 1 contractor at $2,500 per month. Deliver 10 projects monthly. The contractor handles 5. You handle 5 strategic ones. Now revenue is $15,000 per month, $180,000 annually, while your personal workload drops to 20 hours per week. Hire 2 more contractors. Move yourself entirely to positioning and sales. Now you're closing 15 projects per month. That's $22,500 per month, $270,000 annually, with minimal personal delivery work. Your contractor costs are around $7,500 per month, leaving $15,000 per month profit. That's $180,000 annually in your pocket. Scale to 30 projects per month through a refined sales system. Hire a project manager and additional contractor. Revenue equals $45,000 per month. Costs equal $12,000 per month. Profit equals $33,000 per month. That's $396,000 annually. This isn't hyperbole. It's the documented pattern across successful micro-agencies in design, copywriting, and branding. Now here's where the wealth psychology becomes critical. The wealthy understand something most service providers completely miss. The service isn't the product. The perception is the product. Your job is to make the buyer feel they're receiving something rare and valuable. Hermes doesn't charge $15,000 for a leather bag because of manufacturing costs. They charge that price because they've successfully convinced the market the bag is worth $15,000. The bag costs perhaps $2,000 to manufacture. The $13,000 difference is pure positioning, pure brand, pure perceived value. This same principle applies to consulting. A $5,000 consulting engagement providing revenue strategy could take 10 hours, positioned as premium, or it could take 20 hours, positioned as standard consulting. The work is similar. The packaging and positioning determine the price. Wealthy consultants obsess over positioning because they understand the economics. If you can convince 10 people per month to pay $1,500 instead of $500, you've increased revenue by $100,000 annually without increasing workload. That's pure leverage. That's the game. Let me give you a decision-making framework the ultra-wealthy use when evaluating business opportunities. It's called the leverage matrix, and it applies directly to the micro-agency model. Every business decision is evaluated on two axes: time investment and return multiple. High time investment with low return multiple is a trap. Low time investment with high return multiple is wealth creation. Most freelancers operate in the trap quadrant. They invest massive time for linear returns. 1 hour of work equals 1 hour of pay. The micro-agency flip moves you into the wealth creation quadrant. You invest upfront time building systems, templates, and positioning. Then you deploy those assets repeatedly with minimal additional time investment, generating exponential returns. Warren Buffett talks about this as building economic moats. He doesn't invest in companies that require constant capital infusion to maintain competitive advantage. He invests in companies with structural advantages that compound over time. Your brand positioning is your economic moat. Your productized systems are your competitive advantage. Your case studies are your compounding asset. Once built, they work for you indefinitely with minimal maintenance. Consider how the Rockefellers approached wealth building. John D. Rockefeller didn't work harder than other oil workers. He worked on systems. He built Standard Oil not by pumping more oil himself, but by creating distribution networks, refining processes, and vertical integration that gave him pricing power. He controlled perception and access. That's exactly what you're doing with a micro-agency. You're building systems that give you pricing power through controlled access and premium positioning. Another psychological principle the wealthy exploit: status association. People don't just buy products or services, they buy association with success. When someone hires a premium consultant, they're not just buying deliverables. They're buying association with someone who's successful, someone who's exclusive, someone whose brand signals status. This is why testimonials and case studies are so powerful. When you can say, "I've worked with companies that have generated X in revenue," or "my clients have achieved Y outcome," you're not just proving competence, you're offering status association. The buyer thinks, if I work with this person, I'm in the same category as those successful companies. That psychological trigger is worth thousands of dollars in perceived value. Let me share a personal observation that changed how I think about pricing forever. I was consulting with a client who ran a boutique branding agency. She was charging $3,000 for full brand packages, logo, color palette, brand guidelines, the works. She was overwhelmed with work but barely profitable. I asked her one question: What's the annual revenue of the businesses you typically work with? She said most were between $500,000 and $2 million. I told her, you're charging them less than 0.5% of their annual revenue for something that touches every customer interaction they have. You're drastically underpriced. We repositioned her service as a strategic brand investment and raised her pricing to $12,000 for the same package. Added one strategic consultation call and a competitor analysis document. Her close rate barely changed, but her revenue quadrupled. Same work, different positioning. The clients didn't blink because $12,000 felt appropriate for businesses operating at that revenue level. That's the perception game. Price has to match the client's sense of scale and importance. If you're working with businesses generating $1 million annually, charging $500 signals you're not serious. Charging $5,000 signals you understand the value you're providing. Now, drop a comment and tell me, what's your current skill and what's the biggest obstacle you're facing in positioning it as premium? I read every comment and I want to know where you're stuck. Because the framework I'm giving you only works if you actually implement it, and implementation requires clearing mental obstacles first. Let's talk about the mindset shift that separates wealthy consultants from struggling freelancers. This is the deepest part of the psychology, and it's where most people fail even when they have the tactical knowledge. Wealthy consultants operate from abundance, not scarcity. When you're pricing from scarcity, you think, I need to close this client, so I better make my price attractive. You undercut, you over-deliver, you justify your existence. That energy repels premium clients. They sense desperation, and desperation signals low value. When you're pricing from abundance, you think, I have a proven system that delivers measurable results. I only work with clients who recognize that value and are willing to invest appropriately. That energy attracts premium clients. They sense confidence, and confidence signals high value. This isn't fake it till you make it. This is understanding that your positioning determines your reality. Grant Cardone teaches a principle he calls, fill the pipeline so full that rejection doesn't matter. When you have 10 qualified leads, losing one doesn't hurt. You can hold firm on pricing. You can walk away from clients who aren't the right fit. That's abundance positioning. But when you have one lead and you desperately need to close it, you'll compromise on everything. Price, scope, timeline, dignity. That's scarcity positioning. The wealthy also understand delayed gratification in a way most people don't. They're willing to invest months or even years building positioning assets, case studies, brand presence, thought leadership that pay exponential dividends later. Most freelancers need money today, so they take any client at any price. That's the trap. You never build the positioning assets that would allow you to charge premium rates. Alex Hormozi talks about this as making offers so good people feel stupid saying no. But here's the nuance most people miss. The offer isn't just about what you're delivering. It's about how you're packaging it, who you're targeting, and what transformation you're promising. A $5,000 offer to a business losing $50,000 monthly due to poor sales feels like a steal. The exact same offer to a business barely breaking even feels impossibly expensive. The offer didn't change. The client's perception of need and value changed. This is why niche positioning is so powerful. When you say, I help e-commerce brands increase conversion rates on product pages, you're competing with every designer and copywriter who does conversion optimization. When you say, I specialize in increasing conversion rates for e-commerce brands selling premium home goods, and my average client sees a 20 to 35% conversion rate increase within 60 days, you're in a category of one. Premium home goods brands with conversion rate problems will pay 5 to 10 times more for that specific expertise than they would for general conversion help. The wealthy don't compete. They create categories where they're the only option. Peter Thiel talks about this in 0 to 1. Monopolies capture value, competitive markets destroy value. Your goal isn't to be a better freelancer in a crowded market. Your goal is to position yourself as the only solution for a specific high-value problem. Let me give you a historical example. In the early 1900s, there were dozens of automobile manufacturers. Most competed on price and features. They went bankrupt. Henry Ford did something different. He didn't build a better car. He built a system, the assembly line, that allowed him to produce cars at scale while maintaining quality. Then he positioned the Model T not as a luxury item, but as a necessity for the American family. He created a new category, the affordable, reliable mass-market automobile. He didn't win by competing. He won by redefining the game. That's what you're doing with the micro-agency flip. You're not competing with freelancers on price. You're creating a new category, premium, specialized, results-focused consulting, where price competition doesn't exist because you're the only player. Another mindset principle: wealthy consultants view client relationships as partnerships, not transactions. When you're in a transactional mindset, you deliver what was promised and move on. When you're in a partnership mindset, you're invested in the client's long-term success, because their success becomes your case study, your referral source, your proof of concept. This is why high-ticket consultants often under-promise and over-deliver on specific elements while maintaining strict boundaries on scope. They'll throw in an extra consultation call or a bonus strategic document, not because the client demanded it, but because it strengthens the case study and relationship. But they'll never expand scope beyond what was agreed. That's the balance: generous within boundaries, firm on structure. Dan Pena, who's mentored dozens of billionaires, teaches a brutal but effective principle. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. He's talking about association. If you're surrounding yourself with freelancers competing for $500 projects, that's your ceiling. If you're surrounding yourself with consultants closing $10,000 projects, that becomes your new normal. Your environment shapes your expectations, and your expectations shape your pricing. This is why joining high-ticket masterminds, even when they feel expensive, is often the best investment you can make. You're not just learning tactics, you're recalibrating your sense of what's possible and what's normal. When everyone around you charges 5 figures for projects, charging 4 figures feels natural. When everyone around you charges 3 figures, charging 4 figures feels impossibly audacious. The wealthy understand that confidence is the highest leverage asset you can develop. Technical skills are table stakes. Everyone delivering at a professional level has technical skills. The difference maker is confidence in your positioning, your pricing, and your value. That confidence comes from internal belief and external validation through results. This is why I keep emphasizing case studies. 3 strong case studies don't just prove competence to clients, they prove it to you. They recalibrate your internal sense of worth. Once you've delivered a result that saved a client $50,000, charging $5,000 for your service stops feeling expensive. It feels obvious. Let me bring this full circle with one final story. There's a consultant I know who spent 5 years as a freelance copywriter, grinding out projects at $500 to $1,000 each. She was talented. She delivered great work, but she was exhausted and barely breaking $60,000 annually. Then she made one shift. She stopped calling herself a copywriter. She started calling herself a revenue growth strategist. She stopped offering copy. She started offering revenue growth packages that included copy, email sequences, and strategic consulting. She stopped charging per deliverable. She started charging based on projected revenue increase. Her first package under the new positioning was $8,000. She was terrified. She thought no one would pay it. She closed the client in 2 days. Within 6 months, she was averaging $12,000 per project and closing 1 to 2 projects per month. Same work, different positioning. Her annual revenue went from $60,000 to over $200,000. She hired 2 contractors to handle fulfillment and focused entirely on sales and strategy. By year 2, she was at $400,000 annually. That's the micro-agency flip in action. One skill: premium packaging, strategic positioning, exponential results. Now, here's what I need from you. We're building this channel to reach ambitious, strategic thinkers like you. People who aren't satisfied with conventional wisdom. People who want the real strategies the wealthy use. We're at the beginning of something powerful, and I need you to be part of it. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it right now. We're aiming for 100 subscribers, and your subscription matters. Hit that like button. We're going for 50 likes on this video, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I want to see how far this message spreads, because here's the truth. Everything I've shared today only matters if you implement it. Knowledge without execution is entertainment, and you're not here to be entertained. You're here to build wealth. So take the framework I've given you, choose your skill, build your productized package, price at perceived value, document your results, raise your prices, scale through hiring. That's the path. The market doesn't reward the hardest workers. It rewards the best positioned. The most technically skilled freelancer working 80 hours a week will lose to the strategically positioned consultant working 20 hours a week if the consultant understands perception, pricing, and leverage. That's not fair, that's reality, and you can either complain about it or you can use it. The micro-agency flip works because it exploits a fundamental market inefficiency. Most service providers charge based on time and effort, while wealthy consultants charge based on transformation and positioning. By choosing one skill, packaging it professionally, documenting results and letting your brand do the selling, you can build a $200,000 to $400,000 annual business within 18 to 36 months. But here's what most people won't tell you. The biggest obstacle isn't the tactics. It's not the website design or the pricing structure or even finding clients. The biggest obstacle is your willingness to position yourself as premium before you feel ready. That's the uncomfortable truth. Wealthy consultants don't wait until they're perfect. They position themselves as the expert, then they grow into that positioning through execution. There's a concept in psychology called the imposter syndrome. High achievers often feel like frauds despite evidence of their competence. But here's the paradox. Wealthy consultants flip this on its head. They position themselves confidently, then use that positioning to attract clients who push them to deliver at that level. The positioning creates the growth, not the other way around. Think about it. If you wait until you feel fully qualified to charge $5,000, you'll wait forever. There will always be someone more experienced, more credentialed, more proven. But if you position yourself at that level now, document your results obsessively, and deliver transformation for your clients, you'll grow into that positioning faster than you ever would by waiting. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about this as clouds and dirt. Most people get stuck in the middle, tactical execution without strategic vision. Clouds are the big vision, the positioning, the brand story. Dirt is the daily execution, the client delivery, the operational systems. Wealthy consultants operate at both levels simultaneously. They build the cloud, the premium brand positioning, while executing in the dirt, delivering exceptional results that justify that positioning. This is why I'm so adamant about starting now, even if you only have 1 or 2 clients under your belt. Build the positioning, create the website, price at perceived value, then deliver so well that your case studies justify the premium you're charging. The positioning gives you access to better clients. Better clients push you to deliver better work. Better work creates better case studies. Better case studies justify higher pricing. It's a compounding loop, but you have to enter the loop by positioning first. Let me address something that might be holding you back: the fear of failure at premium pricing. What if you charge $5,000 and don't deliver? What if the client is unhappy? What if you get exposed as not being worth that price? These fears are normal, but they're also the exact fears keeping you trapped in low-value positioning. Here's the reframe. When you charge $500, client expectations are moderate. When you charge $5,000, client expectations are high, but so is your commitment to delivery. You're not going to coast on a $5,000 project. You're going to over-prepare, over-deliver, and obsessively ensure success because the stakes are higher. That heightened commitment produces better results, which produces better case studies, which justifies even higher pricing. Fear of failure at premium pricing actually drives better outcomes. Plus, here's something most people miss. Premium clients are often easier to work with than budget clients. Budget clients micromanage because they're hyper-aware of every dollar spent. Premium clients trust your expertise because they've already made the mental commitment that you're worth the investment. They give you space to execute. They respect boundaries. They value your time. Moving upmarket doesn't just increase revenue, it improves quality of life. Now let's talk about something critical that I haven't fully addressed yet: the sales conversation. Because you can have perfect positioning, a beautiful website, and compelling case studies, but if you can't close the sale, none of it matters. The good news? Premium sales conversations are fundamentally different from budget sales conversations, and they're actually easier once you understand the psychology. In budget sales conversations, you're justifying price. The client is comparing you to cheaper options, questioning whether you're worth it, negotiating on scope and cost. It's exhausting. In premium sales conversations, you're qualifying fit. You're asking questions to determine whether the client is serious, whether they have the budget, whether they're ready to commit to the transformation. You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. This shift in frame is everything. Dan Locke teaches a principle he calls, "Only talk to people who can afford you and are ready to buy." If someone reaches out for a consultation and you discover they don't have budget, you politely refer them elsewhere. You don't lower your price, you don't convince them, you move on. That behavior signals confidence and scarcity, which reinforces your premium positioning. In premium sales conversations, you spend 80% of the time asking questions and 20% presenting your solution. You're diagnosing their problem, understanding the cost of inaction, identifying the transformation they're seeking, and confirming they have decision-making authority and budget. Only after you've established all of that do you present your offer. And when you do, you present it as the obvious solution to the problem they've just articulated to you. Alex Hormozi uses a framework called the value equation in sales conversations. Value equals dream outcome times perceived likelihood of achievement divided by time delay and effort required. In a sales conversation, you're increasing perceived value by clarifying the dream outcome. So if we solve this, you'll increase monthly revenue by $20,000, correct? Increasing perceived likelihood of achievement. Here's a case study where we did exactly this for a similar business, decreasing time delay. We can have this implemented within 30 days and decreasing effort required. This is completely done for you. You're only required to attend 2 strategy calls. When you structure the conversation this way, price becomes a minor consideration because you've stacked perceived value so high that the investment feels obvious. A $5,000 project that could generate $50,000 in additional revenue within 90 days isn't expensive. It's the cheapest money they'll ever spend. One more sales psychology principle: never present pricing in isolation. Always present pricing in context of the transformation. Don't say this package costs $5,000. Say, based on everything you've shared, you're currently losing approximately $30,000 per quarter due to low conversion rates. Our package, which costs $5,000 and will be implemented within 30 days, has historically increased conversion rates by 20 to 35% for similar businesses. That translates to an additional $10,000 to $15,000 per quarter, meaning the package pays for itself in the first 2 months and generates $30,000 to $45,000 in additional annual revenue thereafter. See the difference? Same price, completely different perception. You're not selling a service, you're selling a return on investment. That's how wealthy consultants think, and it's how you need to position every single offering. Now, I want to address a question I know some of you are asking. What if I'm in a competitive market? What if there are already established consultants charging premium rates? How do I break in? Great question. The answer is strategic differentiation and targeted positioning. You don't compete with established consultants head-to-head. You carve out a sub-niche where you can dominate. If the market is saturated with brand consultants, you become the brand consultant for sustainable fashion startups. If there are too many copywriters, you become the conversion copywriter for SaaS companies with annual recurring revenue between $1 and $5 million. The more specific your positioning, the less competition you face, and the more you can charge because you're the specialist. There's a consultant I know who built a 6-figure business exclusively helping dental practices optimize their patient intake process. That's it. That's the entire business. Hyper-specific. And because she's the only person most dental practices know who specializes in that exact problem, she charges $15,000 per engagement and has a 6-month wait list. She's not competing with general business consultants. She's in a category of one. This is the power of niche dominance. Riches are in the niches, as the saying goes. But most people are afraid to niche down because they think they're limiting their market. The opposite is true. By niching down, You increase perceived expertise, reduce competition, and justify premium pricing. A general copywriter competing against thousands of others will always struggle. A copywriter who specializes in email sequences for e-commerce brands selling to parents of young children is rare, valuable, and can charge accordingly. Let's talk about the long game, because the micro-agency flip isn't just a tactic for making money this year. It's a wealth-building system that compounds over time. Every client you deliver for becomes a case study. Every case study strengthens your positioning. Every strengthened positioning allows you to raise prices. Every price increase improves your profit margin. Every improved profit margin gives you resources to hire, scale, and remove yourself from delivery. Within 3 to 5 years, if you execute this correctly, you're not running a micro-agency anymore. You're running a brand. You're the face. You're doing sales, strategy, and thought leadership. You have a team handling delivery. You're operating at 50% plus profit margins because your systems are efficient and your pricing is premium. You're working 20 to 30 hours per week and earning $300,000 to $1 million annually. That's the end game. But it starts with one decision: to stop positioning yourself as a freelancer and start positioning yourself as a premium consultant. Everything else flows from that decision: the website, the pricing, the client selection, the case studies, the scaling. It all starts with the decision to operate differently. And here's the final psychological insight I'll leave you with. Wealthy people don't just earn more money. They think about money differently. They view money as a tool for buying time, freedom, and optionality. Poor people view money as scarce and hoard it or spend it impulsively. Middle-class people view money as something to be saved and invested conservatively. Wealthy people view money as something to be deployed strategically for maximum leverage and return. When you're building a micro-agency, you're not just building income. You're building leverage. You're building systems that generate income independently of your time. You're building a brand that commands premium pricing. You're building case studies that open doors to higher value clients. You're building a business that could be sold for a multiple of annual profit, creating a liquidity event that accelerates your wealth building even further. This is how the wealthy think. They're always building assets, not just income. Your micro-agency is an asset. Your brand is an asset. Your case studies are assets. Your systems and templates are assets. The team you hire becomes an asset, and assets compound in value over time if you build them correctly. So here's my challenge to you. Stop thinking like a freelancer who trades time for money. Start thinking like a consultant who builds leveraged assets that generate premium income. Make the mental shift today, then take action tomorrow. Choose your skill, build your package, set your pricing. Start documenting results. The market is waiting for someone confident enough to position themselves as premium and skilled enough to deliver on that promise. That someone is you. We're at the beginning of this journey together. Premium Wealth Insights exists to give you these strategies, these frameworks, these psychological insights that separate the wealthy from everyone else. But knowledge without action is just entertainment. You have everything you need. Now execute, subscribe if you haven't already. We're building toward 100 subscribers and every single one matters. Hit that like button. Let's get to 50 likes on this video. Drop a comment with where you're watching from and your biggest takeaway from this entire breakdown. I read every single comment, and your engagement tells me this content is reaching the right people. Next week, I'm breaking down the exact closing psychology high-ticket consultants use to get clients saying yes without feeling pressured. You don't want to miss that. Until then, position premium, deliver results, and build wealth. This is William Vanderbilt. Now go execute.